So welcome to the, what is this, third or fourth cooking class with the farm?
The third Zoom class, cooking or otherwise.
Okay, good. Third Zoom class that we are collaborating, with the farm, with the Dickinson farm. I'm Adeline Soldin, professor in the French and Francophone Studies department. And I'm really excited to see all of you here on Zoom. So today, as you know, we're going to be doing two things. The soup, which is called, in French, le potage parmentier, named after specifically an agronomist from the 18th century who kind of promoted the potato as something that humans should eat and not just animals after it was imported from the United States. And so parmentier has given his name to a couple of dishes where potatoes are an element, and this is specifically a leek and potato soup. I'm a big fan of leeks and don't think Americans eat enough leeks, and so I'm always promoting leeks. So we're gonna start with the soup, and then once we get that going, we'll quickly kind of move to the salad, which is a celery root for base with various options to add in, apples, cheese, nuts, etc. Sort of vinaigrette based salad. So I'm going to move a little bit over to the stove. Hopefully you can see me well. I'm going to start by melting our 1 stick of butter, the French like butter. If you want to make it a little, lower in butter, you don't have to maybe use the whole stick. The soup will still come out fine if you want to use like 3/4 or something and lessen it a bit. But I'm going to throw my stick of butter. I'm going to turn on my stove to my burner to like medium to get it going. Stick my butter in here. Let that just kind of melt for a second, and then I've already got my 3 cups of leeks chopped here that I'll throw in as soon as it's started to melt some. And I should have said earlier, feel free to, use the raise hand function or just kind of yell out, raise your hand if you have any questions. Okay. So keep an eye on the butter. So we've got at least, I guess, 3 people cooking along with us that I can see. Oh, I have a question maybe. Considered small, is that the question? This I would say is smallish. Oh, this is 1 leek. I chopped up about 5 large leeks to get my 3 cups. If that's where the chat question is kind of headed. So the butter is melting. I'm going to go ahead and throw my leeks in, and we're going to let the leeks sort of cook down a little bit for about 10 minutes. We really kind of want to get the leeks good and buttery, soften them up a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and put the top on to keep it, I guess to keep them moist and really to kind of get them to soften up even more. Okay, so we're going to leave that for about 10 minutes. And in the meantime, I'm going to start making the vinaigrette for the salad. Okay, so I'm going to use the bowl that I'm going to put the salad in. So I'm just going to start with a medium. I mean, you don't need a huge bowl. The salad isn't that big, but I like to have space so I don't throw things outside of the bowl. So the vinaigrette uses 2 tablespoons plus 1 teaspoon of oil. Olive oil. I'm going to use walnut. I think walnut is a fun sort of autumn oil, and I think it goes well with the apples and the celery root. So I'm going to use walnut, but you could use really any oil. So 2 tablespoons plus a teaspoon. I'm just going to kind of eye the teaspoon. There we go. And as I was saying, and I kind of wrote this in the document, I see we have people coming in. So if you guys have questions or would like me to slow down, just let me know. As I said in the document with the recipes, these recipes are all very flexible. You don't need to, you're really cooking for yourself, for your taste. So you adjust the vinaigrette. If you prefer white wine vinegar instead of apple cider vinegar, that's perfectly fine. So 1 tablespoon of the vinegar. Put that in. A tablespoon of mustard, Dijon, preferably, but you could, again, you could substitute with something else. So got about a tablespoon of that. Okay. And then a teaspoon of maple syrup or honey, either one, to kind of soften the acid a bit. Put that in. And then I'm going to whisk it. I don't know if I can really show you what I'm doing, but a little bit. I mean, I'm sure most of you know how to whisk a salad dressing, and this might not even be the best bowl for whisking, but you get the idea. Just so it's good and combined. I think the mustard does a really good job of helping the vinaigrette kind of congeal. So it's not so much oil and vinegar kind of separating themselves. So I'm going to take a quick pause. I'm going to stir my leeks just to make sure they're doing well. Okay, so now I would say test your vinaigrette. See if you like it. See if you want to add more vinegar, more oil, salt and pepper. I mean, personally, I don't think I need to add salt and pepper, but go for it if that's what you would like. Any questions on the vinaigrette?
It's really good.
Oh, good.
I like it.
Good. I'm glad you like it. So now we're just going to set this aside for now. And we're going to focus on the celery root. So these things, yours might not look as, yeah, that's a good size one. Yeah. So we can't hear you. You can turn your volume on if you want.
Yeah, it's big. This was the smallest one they had too.
Yeah, so you guys are getting supermarket ones, and they usually are much bigger. So one of those is probably plenty. Both I see Kate and JP's. Is that right?
Bigger than my brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, and mine also had big size. So these are from the college farm, and they're a little bit smaller, but I'm going to use 2. So we'll end up in the same amount mostly. Mm-hmm. So you guys don't have the gnarly roots like I do, but I'm going to cut those off. And really, when we're working with the, I can show you a little bit here. When we're working with the celery root, I don't even use a peeler. I just use a knife because it's pretty, the skin is pretty tough, and it's just easier. I don't know that a peeler would do a very good job. So I'm gonna peel the skin very carefully.
You cut her roots off. You know, hardly have any.
Any questions so far?
No.
Okay. So yeah, I cut off my roots, and I still have this little nub, and I'll just kind of, you know, when I'm peeling, I'll just kind of come around and get that other little other end.
Oh, I wish I could peel like that.
Are you using a peeler? No. Okay, so that's what my one looks like after I've kind of peeled, you know, gotten the skin off, peeled the skin off. Going for the other one. Okay, so I've got two. How's everyone's peeling going? Good. Okay. Good. I'm gonna check my leeks again, and maybe, well, let's see. We still need a couple more minutes maybe, and then we're gonna want to add our broth and potatoes. I'm gonna go ahead and stir them again. So I'm gonna give that like maybe one more minute, maybe a minute and a half. And so hopefully you guys have your potatoes ready. I put mine in water because that's supposed to kind of keep them from browning. So I put my potatoes in cold water. I'm gonna drain those. So when you're done with the celery root, we'll just set that aside so we can get the rest of the soup going, and then we'll return to the celery root. So we're kind of juggling a couple things here, but is everyone doing all right? Okay, good. So in terms of the soup, as I said on here, you can use chicken broth, vegetable broth. If you want to, maybe, you know, some people prefer, you know, maybe more simpler, pure leek flavor. You might want to just use water. Anything. I'm going to start with a quart of chicken broth and possibly add water later. I'm of the sort of approach that we can always add more water later, but if it's too liquidy or too watered down, then it's hard to take it out. So I'm going to go ahead and throw my potatoes in, throw in a quart of chicken broth, and then turn it up a little bit so we can bring that to a simmer. Okay? Okay. Okay, so I put my lid on. My stove is a little bit older and takes a while. So if you've got a good, you know, burning stove, you might not need to, but I would maybe, once you get it to a simmer, you know, put the lid on halfway so some air can escape and you don't get boiling over sort of thing. How's everyone doing? Okay. Okay. So, is everyone ready to return to the salad, to the celery root? Okay, so this is the sort of tricky part. It's not really tricky. I'm going to sort of cheat and use the Cuisinart because these things are tough. They're like, the root is pretty tough. You can grate it, and it's certainly, you know, you can definitely grate it. I'm just gonna cheat and use the Cuisinart. If you're gonna grate it by hand, just be careful because it's one of those, it's tough. You can easily slip and grate your finger. At least I can. It happens to me all the time. So be careful, don't grate your fingers. I'm going to plug in the Cuisinart and probably cut these a little bit down so they fit better through the slot. And then I'm going to grate them. Is everyone reading? Okay. So turn that on. So I can kind of show you what I'm doing. It's nothing, you know, too complex. I've got my grater on my Cuisinart.
Are we looking for like thin strips?
Did I hear a question there?
Yeah. Are we looking for like thin strips of the celery root when we grate it? Because I don't have a.
Yes. Yeah. So if you were going to grate it by hand, I would use something like that.
Yeah.
That size. And yeah. And so the Cuisinart, you know, the problem with the Cuisinart is that you end up with all these chunks that didn't get grated. So now I'm just going to kind of chop them up so they don't go to waste. So I've got a few like this that just didn't really get chopped up very well. I'm going to chop them up. But I do think grating it rather than chopping it is the way to go. The texture is sort of tough, and so the smaller kind of size, you know, it's like a carrot in a lot of ways, and a carrot is something that you could certainly mix into any celery root based salad. You know, you could easily throw in some grated carrot, and that would also, I'm going with the kind of apple walnut cheese flavor, but you could, there's definitely versions with grated carrots and, you know, that kind of flavor profile. So yes, I'm going to go ahead and throw the celery root right into my vinaigrette here. So this is how it looked, you know, it kind of like good grated stuff. It's also just comes out more uniform, I guess. It's also kind of a typical French thing to have a just grated celery root or even a just grated carrot salad. Like that's a typical sort of veggie side, a grated carrot, only carrots, vinaigrette salad. So once you are kind of got your celery root under control, I'm gonna check on the soup. Oh, it's always good to keep checking on the soup, making sure we're kind of, you know, got a nice, good simmer. We don't want to be boiling it, but we don't want it to be simmering too slowly. So it's coming along. How's everyone doing? I see the question here. I mean, it's not a big difference, the broth temperature. Obviously, if it's already hot, it will, it'll facilitate the process by bringing it to a boil quicker, but it's not a big difference. Again, if you have a decent stove, unlike myself, it'll come to a boil pretty quickly. Any other questions, or? We're good. Okay. I see people are still.
Yeah, I had a question. Hi
Yes.
there, JP. So
Hi.
I couldn't find the grating attachment, so I'm just chopping this up, and that's okay, cool, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
it's
okay too.
still a celery root.
Yes,
Okay.
it's not celery root. I mean, if you did have something like this, you could do that.
It'd take forever with all this stuff, though.
Okay. Okay.
Well, like try it.
You could try. You could try a little bit.
You find it.
Yeah.
There's my wife. Oh, here it is. I got one. It's
There you go.
vintage.
There you go. Like I said,
$6.84.
yeah, just be careful not to grate your fingers. Julia, any question?
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna
Yeah.
mute.
I was just wondering when you mentioned that in like a French cuisine there might not be other things included. Does that include like a leafy bed? Like would it literally just be based on like a carrot or a celery root, or is that on top of like a greens base?
No, it's just grated stuff.
Oh, that's so
It's
interesting.
just like I mean, grated carrot. Literally all you see is shaved carrots in a pile mixed in with vinaigrettes. And so this right here, what you see could be the salad. We could stop right now with the grated celery root, mix in the vinegar with, a vinaigrette, and that would be it. And that's pretty typical, like, especially for more simple cooking. Not everyone wants to add cheese or apples or walnuts. And I'm also, thinking if you're eating what we're cooking tonight, which means we're having a soup and, maybe some bread and something with that soup, but also a salad, I thought it was better to beef up the salad a little bit with some apples, nuts, cheese. But if you were having, let's say a roast chicken or something where there's a bigger kind of heavier centerpiece than a side of just grated carrots or grated celery root would be pretty common. It's a great question. Thank you, Julia. The other thing I wanted to add that I almost included but decided not to, and I think it's a good pairing with celery root, is fennel. You could also slice up some fennel really thinly and kind of chop that up and mix this in, and it would also, it would change the flavor profile a bit, but I think fennel also goes well with apples, walnuts, that kind of thing. So other variations that you might try in the future. So I hear my soup going. I'm just gonna make sure it's not boiling too much. That's good. Okay. So we want that soup to, I've put 30 minutes, at least 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, kind of depends on your time. Soups are flexible like that. So the next thing to do is an apple. This is a smallish apple, and probably, we'll see. I might use all of it because it's kind of small, but again, it's up to what you are, what you're going for. I'm just gonna slice it up. I'm actually use this knife though. Slice it up. I think I said peeled on the recipe, which you don't have to peel it. I actually think the color would be nice because otherwise it's a very non-colorful salad. So if you want to keep the, the peel on, go for it. And I'm just going to slice it up. If you had the Cuisinart out and you wanted to, you could just throw it in the Cuisinart. Of course, then you have a peeling issue where it kind of tears the peel apart, but that's an option. Any other questions?
Did we throw the leeks in the soup yet?
Yes, we did.
Oh, we did. Okay.
Sorry, that might have been from the beginning. I apologize for that. So just to recap, you start out with the leeks and the butter, and they simmer for, or, they kind of saute for about 10 minutes. Sorry about that, Brian.
It's fine. Thank you.
Uh-huh. Any other questions? So here, I'll show you what I'm doing here. I'm just chopping them pretty small, it kind of depends on what you're going for, but I'm kind of chopping them up pretty small. And I'm going to throw them in, and then I'm going to decide if I want to add more. I think I probably will. Yeah. So since my apple's pretty small, I'm going to go ahead and finish it.
So Professor Soldin,
Yes.
until now, then in the pan, you only have the leeks, the butter, and did you add anything else?
I did. I added, so the leeks and the butter cook for about 10 minutes. And then when they're kind of softened up, add in the potatoes and the broth. And that's what we're simmering right now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Sorry for all of those that missed the very first step. Apologies. My sincerest apologies for that.
Now, I actually had to change equipment, so I apologize for that because I
No,
missed.
no reason to apologize. How's everyone else doing? Good. Okay. All right, so I'm going to throw the rest of my apples in. I need something to stir it with. So this is what I've got so far. I've got my grated celery root and my, thinly kind of chopped sliced apples. Great. And I'm going to go ahead and mix all that up. Actually, the other thing we could add, I already chopped my cheese, but if you haven't, and if you're using Gruyere or some sort of Swiss or something like that, you could slice it up. I kind of went a little bit over my 1/3 cup, but more cheese is not a bad thing. So I'm going to go ahead and throw that in as well. So whenever you get your cheese sliced up, you can go ahead and throw that in. And then I'm going to go ahead and stir all that. The walnuts are still something to add, but we can add those at the very end because they're kind of, we want them kind of crunchy and fresh. So I'm going to mix all of this up with my broth, with my vinaigrette. Move this out of here. I'm checking my soup.
Did you just put the vinaigrette in?
So I was already putting them in the same bowl. I mixed all the vinaigrette in here, and then I added it all to the same bowl. Yeah. So yes, go ahead and add the vinaigrette. Okay, so mixing back to my salad mixing. Okay, so once this is mixed, you could, if you kind of like your salad cold, you could put it in the fridge until the soup is done, or you could just keep it on the counter. And we're just gonna sprinkle on. I've got my walnuts all toasted. If you haven't toasted your walnuts, you could go ahead and toast them. I'm famous for over toasting, so I did that in advance so I wouldn't be distracted and over toast my walnuts. But when you're ready to eat, then you're going to want to just sprinkle those on top. How's everyone doing? Do we have any questions? Good.
That's got to be one of the uglier salads I've ever made. No fault of yours because I used the Cuisinart, so it's not as, it's more chopped. That's all.
Yeah.
And I think I probably need more vinaigrette.
Okay.
Like, what's the that kind of consistency you're looking for with when you add the vinaigrette in? It's just,
if it's not enough, then definitely you
mix
can
everything
add
up, make up another batch.
Yeah, mix up a little
Yeah.
bit more. Apologies for that. I think the size of the celery root can make a difference.
Yep.
Any other questions or issues?
I have a question about, so in France, do they use a lot of refrigeration or and I'm from Brazil and sometimes I'm amazed how many things they keep outside of the refrigerator for so long. I wonder how France is.
Yeah, I think they're probably less inclined to use the refrigerator as we are, especially with something like a vinaigrette. It doesn't have anything in it that really, really needs to be in the refrigerator. I would also say, France is kind of famous for their quiches and a lot of egg dishes, and they eat those, they cook them and then they let them sit out for a while, and they tend to eat them even more room temperature than hot, like we would probably eat them. France is also known for its cheese, and you want to keep your cheese in the refrigerator, but before you eat it, you want to take them out like an hour in advance, 30 minutes at least to an hour, to bring the cheese to room temperature, because then you'll actually taste it better. If it's too cold, and I think this is true with a lot of things, right? If it's really too cold, you have a hard time really tasting some things. I see another question on the side here about how I toasted my walnuts. So I used my toaster oven right there, and I just put it on toast in my little thing. You could also kind of do it in the oven. The thing with nuts is you really want to be careful of overdoing them. So I did that for, I don't know, 5 minutes max in the toaster, maybe. And then I see another one. Wish I could, okay. Yes, I see. Well, I hope that you will be able to make your leek soup tomorrow, Lisa, when you get your leeks. Simran, did I answer your question all right? Any other questions while we're waiting? So right now, really, I'm waiting. The soup is simmering. And I did a lot of things in advance because I wanted to be able to be attentive to all of you. So really, we're just kind of finishing up the salad, waiting for the soup to simmer a little bit more, and I'm happy to answer any other questions in the meantime.
I have a question.
Yes.
So are these dishes, are they regional or are they more throughout France?
I think they're more common throughout France. At least that's my experience. I haven't, leeks and celery root are things that grow in a lot of places. I think throughout France, they might become ready to harvest sooner in one area than in the other, but they're kind of, basic, especially leeks. Leeks are just, a leek quiche is a very common dish. Leek soup is also a very common dish. There's actually, and I thought about this, but I thought, it's not even really my favorite, and so I didn't do it. But there's a soup called vichyssoise, and that might come from a place called Vichyssoise or something. Vichy, it comes from Vichy. Yes, so I'm figuring it out as I'm talking about it. Vichy, which was the center of the, it's a place sort of in central France, which is known for bottled water, but also known for the headquarters of the collaborators with the Nazis during the World War II. So it has sort of a negative connotation in a historical sense. But vichyssoise does come from the Vichy, so central France, and it is a cold summer soup made of leeks and potatoes. Yes. So, and I figured, in October, we don't really want cold soup, I don't think. So that's why I went more of a warm, kind of more traditional leek and potato soup. But vichyssoise, something to look up if that's something that would interest you for another time. I'm going to give my soup a stir and come right back. Okay, so I think my soup needs at least 5 more minutes. Not sure how everyone else's is going, until I feel like things are tender enough to blend. How's everyone else doing?
Well, what are we looking for with the soup in terms of being ready? Like you're ready to mash the potatoes up.
Yes, ready to mash the potatoes. Ready to mash the potatoes, yeah. So I can go ahead and start talking maybe about the last step. So I'm going to use an immersion blender to blend the soup at the end. And this is, again, I think this is, pretty common in the United States to blend soups, but it's French people don't really serve chunky soups. They serve pureed soups for the most part, not entirely, but for the most part. And I think with this soup in particular, because you have the leeks, which it's not like a French onion soup. Obviously, the French onion soup, you want to have those good caramelized onions. We didn't really caramelize the leeks, and I think that their texture is not the most desirable, let's say. So I feel like you get the great flavor from the leek, which, as I said in the document that was circulated, they're the onion, they're obviously clearly in the onion and garlic families that have a lot of great flavor, but kind of blending it all up with the potatoes, which adds good texture, makes for a nice and creamy soup, even if you didn't add the cream, which will add a little bit of cream, but you don't even need much because the potatoes and the butter that we've already added kind of contributes to that. But so if you don't have an immersion blender, then there are a couple other options. You could use a masher, like for mashed potatoes or something, or you could transfer it to a Cuisinart or a blender and do that. Those are all options. How's everyone doing? Your soup might be ready before mine. As I said, I have a slow working stove, so. Good. So is anyone else to the blending stage yet? Anyone else feel like their soup is ready? Yeah.
Yeah, but I need to fortify my salad with more of everything else, except for the
Oh.
celery.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Building it out.
Okay, that's fine. Take your time. It's fine for this. It's fine for the soup to simmer more. That's, again, as I said, soups.
I
are
got,
nice-
I have my immersion blender, and I'm going to try it.
Okay, good,
Very exciting.
good.
First, I want to get my colors.
Mhm.
I want it to look
If
like
you
the
add
roots.
this apple, that might improve your salad.
Yeah. I had there was a lot of celery. So
Yeah.
I took some out and I put more stuff in, and now it looks
Much
better.
better.
Believe
Yeah.
me, it looks better. And it
Much
tastes
better.
better too, because I put a whole bunch more of the vinaigrette in.
Oh, good,
Okay.
good. Okay,
I'm gonna start blending.
good for it. Go for it. Good. Yeah. So blend. So I kind of blend until it's as, blended as you can get it pretty much. If you do want some chunks, you don't have to blend it entirely. You can kind of blend it halfway and stop, whatever you think you prefer. And actually, oops, sorry, I'm about to step on my cat. Did I say? Yeah, that's good. We're blending first, just making sure I'm following my recipe correctly. All right, I'm gonna check on the soup again. I want to give it a couple more minutes, but we're getting very close.
I have a question. Not that I'm cooking along, but did you develop this recipe yourself, or like have tweaked it from previous times making it?
Yeah, I kind of tweaked it from, I usually when I'm cooking, some things I just wing, some things I obviously definitely need a recipe for. And this is one of those things that like I could have wung it, but I wanted to give you guys good proportions, because when it's just for me, then it doesn't matter. But I wanted to make sure I had some decent proportions to, share with everyone. So I looked at a few different leek and potato soup recipes and kind of made the version that I thought I would like the best. But obviously, as everything in this recipe has the asterisks of you could do this or you could do that. You can make it thicker and add less liquid. You can make it, lighter and add more liquid. You can add cream if you wanted to forego cream and just add some milk and make it a little bit lighter. You could do that too. So there's a lot of flexibility. Kate, how's your soup coming along?
Oh, sorry. It's almost there. The potatoes are still a little
A little
not
hot.
quite there.
Yeah, that's good. That's about where I am too. I'm gonna give it a few more minutes. Okay, anyone else? I don't know if anyone else besides the 3 videos I see are actually doing it. Or maybe
Mine's ready. Mine's good.
Oh, good.
Beautiful. I love my immersion blender. I've never
yeah.
used it before.
It's my favorite thing to do.
Cool.
I love immersion blending.
It can get a little head of hand, but it's good.
Yeah.
Got to make sure you're in control.
Good. Well, this is
That's
great.
good.
I am glad that JP is ahead of us. So what you can do now, JP, is add your cream, which is just like a half cup of cream. And, again, depending on your thickness, you might want to try it before you even add your cream. See what you think of the flavor. Do you want more or less liquid? Do you want to add some salt and pepper? I feel like my chicken broth makes it pretty salty, so I don't usually add salt, but I will probably add some pepper.
Hi. Is there an optimal consistency for the after you blend?
It kind of depends on what you want. So this is where I wish I could be. I mean, I could be more prescriptive. what I want to do is I want all the chunks blended up as much as possible. And then, I kind of want like, you want it to be liquidy, obviously, but kind of, a little bit thicker than cream. And then you're going to add a little cream. So that's going to, make it more creamy, but also add more liquid and make it a little bit lighter. And this is where you can really decide what you like. If you think it's too thick, you want to add more cream or a little milk or a little water to dilute that, you could. It's really up to you. And I can show you what mine looks like in just a second. Just give
Sure.
me how does yours look and what do you think?
It's great.
Kind of almost looks like applesauce. So I think a little chunky for now, but
Yeah, that's a little thick. So you might want to, you're going to add the cream and then see what you think at that point. You could always add some more milk or water if it's, did you give it a try to see what you thought of the flavor profile?
yeah, it tastes pretty good.
Okay.
And I haven't had the cream yet.
Okay, good. Yeah. Okay. That sounds good. But it is sort of a thicker, it's kind of, especially with the potatoes and when you blend it all, it is kind of a thicker, creamier kind of soup like that. Okay, I'm going to try to blend mine. See how it goes here. I think it's okay. Bring this over, but I think I need hot sauce. So I'll show you what mine looks like before adding cream. Cat needed to go out. Okay, so let's see. So yeah, I'm gonna lift my computer up so you guys can see. Sort of. This is hard. Hold on. Don't want to drop it in the soup. All right, can you guys see that kind of? Oh, here. Let me move it this way, maybe. There we go. Okay, so it is, I guess applesauce, like liquidy applesauce, I guess is what this looks like to me. And, I'm definitely going to add some cream, but I kind of like mine thick. So I'm not going to add too much more liquid. But if you wanted it lighter, like I said, definitely add more milk, some water, depending on the flavor. So I'm going to add my cream. Half cup. of cream. I'm just gonna stir it right in. It's pretty hot right now, so, you know, you can just kind of add it straight to it and it's not gonna, if anything, you know, you want to cool it down. Did I do something weird? No. Okay, I think I just clicked on my own. I did something to my view here, but that's okay. There we go. Okay. So how's everyone else doing? And do we have any other questions? So I still have some chunks. I could do it a little bit more, but I think I'm okay with that. Let me see if I can show you guys one more time. Now that I've added my there we go. Now that I've added my cream, so it's a little more like this. Like you said, there's a couple chunks and I could go back through, but I probably won't because I'm too lazy. So now I'm gonna give it a try. I'm gonna see if I think I need to add any salt, pepper. So I might add a little bit of pepper, but I think it's pretty salty. I mean, salty enough for me, you know, don't want it too salty. How's everyone else doing? Good. So I'm gonna add a little bit of pepper to mine. Just some, and you know, this is also something you can do at the table. You can just kind of add pepper to your bowl at the table. That's also a good way to adjust the seasoning to your liking. And then the final thing that you can do if you want is when you serve it, sprinkle a little bit of chopped up chives or parsley on top for, you know, a little more flavor, but also some garnish. Does anyone have questions? I'm gonna set this aside, but I still am happy to respond to anyone else's questions. I'm also, while we're getting towards the end, I'm going to sprinkle my walnuts on my salad, which will also add a little more color and, you know, add to the appearance a little bit, the presentation. So now we have our salad. There you can kind of see with walnuts, apples, grated celery.
I aspire to that salad.
You'll get there. You'll get
Oh, yeah.
there.
No, I got it all together, and the soup is great.
Oh, good, good,
I love it. I love it. I always love leek soup, and now I can make it.
good. Well, I'm very happy to hear that.
Yeah.
That makes my
Must be all the butter.
Yes, the key is sort of the whole stick of butter.
The whole stick of butter. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Don't go light on the butter.
Nope.
Kate, how's yours?
It's really good. We just blended it and it's looking really, really good.
Okay, wonderful.
Now who's going to help me clean up?
I know.
That's
I
exactly
made a
right.
mess.
That's what I'm doing.
It's like I made a mess. I'm like a tornado in here. Oh, well.
Enjoy your soup, then think about dishes later.
Yeah. Okay. Will do.
All right.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
I enjoyed this thoroughly.
Yes. Bon appetit to all of you who are ready to eat, and to all of you that might be making it a little bit later or are still working on it. I'm gonna just check in with Ryan real quick. How are you doing? Thanks for coming, JP and Kate. Thanks for participating.
I think I'm all set. I might not actually add any heavy cream. It seems with the water, it seems pretty like smooth.
Good. Okay.
But yeah, it tastes very good. Thank you.
Good. No, you're welcome. You guys are all very, very welcome. I'm so glad that you joined tonight, and you know, I'm happy to see all your faces and help you guys with your first leek and potato soup, if it's your first leek and potato soup, and a celery root salad. Yes. So please, and you know, keep in touch. Let me know what you think if you decide to make some adjustments and improvements upon the recipes, you know. All right.
If you want to put any pictures of the finished product on Instagram or Facebook, totally tag the farm and we'll share it.
Yes, there you go.
And we also have other cooking classes too coming up. So keep an eye out for those on the Facebook. Those will be the first 2 weeks in November. So yeah.
Hey,